Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you're having a good week. All right. God, I still am definitely in the development stage of kind of taking things to the next level and trying to transition to this video podcast, although it is getting a lot better. Actually, this is pretty funny. I have a green screen now, and so I'm shooting against a green screen, and then I've been trying to figure out the various software programs to basically remove the green screen. Oh, I think I talked about this in an episode a few days ago or a few weeks ago, the chroma key concept. Anyway, that chroma key concept works incredibly well, except if you have sort of spiky hair. And I have sort of spiky hair. I wouldn't really say spiky, but anybody that really knows me knows what a freak I am about my hair. I'm really into my hair. I genuinely am. Like almost I have this love-hate relationship with my hair. I love it, but I hate it at the same time because it's a pain in my butt. It genuinely is a pain. It's really a pain. I can never get my hair the same 2 days in a row. I genuinely can't. I cannot get it to look the same 2 days in a row. So here's a funny example. If you got a chance to, well, first of all, if you did not listen to Monday's episode with Scott Sieverts, I really recommend you do. I really think it was one of, I know I say this, God, every episode I do, I'm like, I think it's the best episode. But I genuinely think the episode with Scott was so good. He's such a genuine guy, and we had such a real and honest conversation. I personally really enjoyed it. I've listened to it a few times myself, and I've been able to pull out so many good 60, 90-second reels for Instagram and TikTok and those places. But he's such an articulate guy. And again, it really, the dude is 6'4", 250 pounds. I mean, I'm not kidding. Kind of picture The Rock, picture a white dude version of The Rock, from Philadelphia or from Pittsburgh. But he's so nuanced, and he's got such a, gentle giant of a delivery. I find him so interesting, and I really, really enjoyed that podcast with him, and I enjoy talking to him in general. I'm going to definitely be doing some bigger things with him. So anyway, if you didn't get a chance to listen, Monday's episode, I think it was number 361. I really do recommend you do. And then if you look at it on YouTube and Spotify, man, my hair was looking amazing that day. Luckily, I recorded 4 podcasts that day, so I'll have four of them with the good hair. But then I recorded the next day, and I just couldn't get my hair to look the same. Oh my God, the trials and tribulations that I have with my hair, it's maddening. It's maddening. It makes me mad. Okay, all right, let's see. What do I want to talk about today? Today I want to talk a little bit about this Nick Fuentes kid. I really do. And the main reason is because I think we're going to be hearing a lot more from him. Actually, we're either going to be hearing a lot more from him, or they're going to completely shut this kid down, or God forbid something worse. But, I've had a few conversations with a few people that just truly hate the kid. And when they talk about the things he says, they're actually talking about him from 4 or 5 years ago, because I think that's where he got super controversial, was during COVID on an app called Clubhouse. I don't know if you guys remember that app, but when COVID happened, this app Clubhouse kind of got crazy popular, and it was almost like a, gigantic phone call between anyone that joined that Clubhouse or whatever. I think that's where he really rubbed, tons of people the wrong way, and, maybe got a really bad reputation or whatever. But he was 20 years old at the time, or 21, and he's only 26 or 27 now. But obviously, I think you mature so much during that time frame, and I've really seen it from him. I've actually listened to a lot of his stuff on Rumble, and And I can tell you, he is highly intelligent, like generational talent, like Scott said during the episode. It really is. So I'm going to play a few things and, just, I guess, get you introduced a little bit to his mindset, because I don't know, for some reason, I feel like this kid's gonna really shake some things up. I mean, I could be wrong, but I know he absolutely is the leader of a tremendous amount of Gen Z kids. And I'm talking like hundreds of thousands, if not in the millions. I think he's really, really developing a following. All right, let me play a couple things. Let's start with this. And you know what? I'm going to play these segments for you, and you decide for yourself what you think about, his mindset.
As I said in 2024 last year, I said the value proposition of Trump in 24 is fundamentally different. In 2016, Trump said, no lobbyists, no super PACs, no donors, I'm your voice. It was Trump against the whole world. Trump against the corruption, against the special interests, the lobbyists, the donors. It was like a Caesar-like moment. The premise of Trump 16 is that he was going to reach into the country, as he said at his announcement speech, he was going to literally take the country and make it great. That's what he said. I alone. America needs a leader. I will literally take this country and make it great again.
Okay, let me jump in real quick, because I think this is actually a great thing to talk about. 2016 Trump, not many of us even remember 2016 Trump, because quite frankly, so much has happened between 2016 Trump to 2020 Trump, to then 2024 Trump, to then 2025 Trump. But 2016 Trump, again, I'll be honest, I didn't even really think about him, because I thought it was more of a PR stunt, right? But the people that followed 2016 Trump, I mean, the real people that were basically the diehard Trump guys, whom, by the way, many of him have now turned on him because of the way he is in 2025 Trump. So like 2016 Trump, I mean, those were like the OG Trump guys. And by the way, Nick Fuentes was one of them. Candace Owens was one of them. Those were the people that really were magnetized by Trump in 2016. And those were the people, again, Nick Fuentes being a perfect example. I mean, gosh, how old was that kid in 2016? Oh my God, he was probably 18 or 19. And I think I've got a clip that talks about that. But anyway, those were the people that honestly probably understood politics better than the rest of us. Because for those of you even right now listening that hate Trump, that viscerally hate Trump, you didn't start hating him in 2016. You didn't. 2016, you thought he was the apprentice guy. You might not have liked, you're fired or that stuff, but you did not viscerally hate Trump in 2016. Or 2015 for sure. Maybe you started hating him when he took over as president, and then the mean tweets. And then really more than anything, maybe the way he empowered some, let's call them white nationalists for lack of a better way of saying it. Maybe the way he empowered some white nationalists to stand up and maybe be racist and stuff. Maybe that's when the tide started turning and you started hating him. But just remember something. Before Donald Trump ran for president, honestly, I don't think anybody really hated him. I mean, tons of people absolutely loved him. That's a fact. I mean, the dude is in 500 rap songs. And so nobody really hated him then. And so what Nick's talking about in that first part of it, and what he's talking about in terms of the value proposition of Trump, I love the way he even words that. 2016 Trump was a completely different person than even 2025 Trump, even 2024 Trump before winning, and then especially as I've said before, the guy that got inaugurated January 20th, 2025. This is a completely different person.
And understand the subtext. The subtext was anti-corruption. MAGA was a populist anti-corruption campaign. He was the people's champion. He said, I am the people's voice. He said, Americans don't come first because the lobbyists, special interests, the donors, foreign countries, multinational corporations, international banks are being put first. He said, but I'm not controlled by them. I will take the country. I will make it great. Such a powerful idea. It didn't happen. He sold out immediately. Maybe the whole thing was fake.
All right, that clip ended there, and he's right. He sold out immediately, literally January 20th or 21st, the day he got inaugurated. Now the question is, there's two questions. One, maybe the whole thing was fake. Absolutely, honestly. And if the whole thing was fake, then all of the liberals, thank you, Greg Stoker, were right, but you were right for the wrong reasons, you know, and all the people that hated Trump were right. But again, you're right for the wrong reasons. You're not right because you hate him because he's an anti, whatever racist. That's not why you're right. You're right because he's no different than the globalists that have come before him. He's no different than George W. Bush. You know, I'm coming to the realization that neoconservative group of folks, George W. Bush, Rumsfeld, Cheney, actually all of the people that Scott Horton talked about in the episode with Scott Horton, which, by the way, I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode too. Honestly, I thought Scott is like a walking encyclopedia. And honestly, I was a little worried about that episode because I just thought it was just too high level. I really did. And you know what I realized? I'm like, maybe it was too high level for me because I did get a lot of positive feedback and had many people say, hey, that was the best episode you ever did. So anyway, I really appreciate that. I am going to try to get Scott back on because there's some more, pinpointed questions that I just did not ask. I'll be honest, I was a little bit nervous for that one because he's a high level guy, man. Dude has been on, just came from Tucker Carlson 3 weeks before recording with me. So I definitely was a little bit nervous. I will admit that. Okay. What I was saying though was in terms of kind of what Nick said in that clip. I mean, I really do agree. The difference in Trump is dramatic from 2016 to 2025. Oh, what I was going to say was, so it's one of two things. Was he always that guy? Like, was he always 2025 Trump and he just really pulled the wool over all of our eyes, myself included? Maybe. Or was it like Jay Slay USA said in that episode? Was that quote unquote assassination attempt like a warning shot? And basically, as soon as that happened, that's really when he started acting totally differently. And especially when he got sworn in to office and everything changed. Another thing Scott Sieverts and Scott from Monday, talked about on the podcast, if you listened and if you picked up on it, he has appointed everyone in his cabinet is like pro-Israel to the max, like, Zionist to the max. And I remember, and you guys might remember, like I was super happy when he didn't appoint Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo, who are also like just like almost like psychotic at their support for Israel. Like it doesn't even make sense how you could like cuck for another country as much as those two do. But when he didn't appoint those early on, I was like, right on. This is great. He's not bringing those like neocon trash into his organization. I was more happy because again, I just think so little of Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo. But now I'm realizing on the episode with Scott Sieverts, I said, God, now I'm surprised he didn't give them a position. But now I think he didn't give them a position on purpose because that was at the very beginning. And so he kind of tricked us with that. And then right after that was when he filled the entire cabinet with really, really hardcore, right-wing people like Marco Rubio, like Pete Hegseth, like this Pam Bondi, who is the attorney general. And by the way, she took Matt Gaetz' spot. And remember, Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene are the two quote unquote MAGA Trump, fan club people that are really going against the narrative. So anyway, all right, that was clip number 1 of Nick's. I thought that was worth listening to. Now let's listen to this one.
Peter Thiel, the FBI informant and CIA contractor, Elon Musk, the defense contractor and PayPal mafia member with Peter Thiel, close confidant of David Sacks, and J.D. Vance, who brokered the David Sacks fundraiser with Silicon Valley and Trump.
All right, let me jump in here. All right, so now he's going to go at these guys. And I mean, again, this is incredibly astute. And there is an unbelievable relationship between Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. If you don't know who Peter Thiel is, he was basically Elon Musk's co-founder with PayPal. Those guys really came up together. And now he's a very, very eclectic billionaire that's also the co-founder of Palantir, which that's received a lot of controversy over the past 6 to 9 months, really coinciding with Trump's inauguration. And so J.D. Vance was and is somebody that Peter Thiel literally picked out of, I think, Harvard Law School, and they've really groomed him to be who they want. That's totally true. And then who else did he talk about? He talked about Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance. Oh, and David Sacks. We've talked about David Sacks. Actually, he was part of that All In podcast. Remember a long time ago, I did an episode where I narrated on top of those guys having Professor John Mearsheimer and Professor Jeffrey Sachs. Anyway, David Sacks is part of that crew. He's kind of the head of crypto for Trump. But again, he's another billionaire that's part of that world, that's part of that technocratic oligarch group of billionaires that are all the Silicon Valley guys that are all buddies, Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all these guys. Listen, I think what's become incredibly apparent for me is it's no longer Republicans and Democrats. It's not. Like they're done with that. It's basically, billionaires versus everybody else. I think they've formed their own party. I'm being serious. I think they've really kind of decided, hey, you know what? This right versus left, Democrats versus Republicans, let's let the masses fight it out with that. We're going to kind of, all join together. I really do. I think that's where they've come to. And again, Trump's their guy. He's their unifying guy. But more importantly, J.D. Vance is the unifying guy. I think J.D. Vance is definitely the heir apparent to all of that. Okay, let's hear what he says about these guys.
Mentored by Peter Thiel, mentored by David Frum, who worked for Bill Kristol with Tucker Carlson. Thiel, Musk, and Tucker lobbied Trump to pick Vance, and they said, if you don't, the CIA will kill you.
Man, he is calling out everybody and really connecting the dots. And by the way, that's definitely true. Peter Thiel, David Sacks, Elon Musk, and Tucker Carlson, he was in that. They're the ones that really backed J.D. Vance. And from everything I've read and heard, they're the ones that convinced Trump to pick J.D. Vance as his vice president. And again, remember, J.D. Vance came out of nowhere. All of the sudden, In 2022, he becomes a senator in Ohio. And by the way, he was practically the only Republican to win that year. Remember, 2022 is the Biden administration. The Democrats were at the helm. And J.D. Vance was one of, if not the only Republican to win a Senate seat and to flip a Senate seat. That's weird, man. That's weird, especially for a guy that has zero political background and kind of came out of nowhere.
Who's the CIA? Who does the CIA, NSA, FBI, DHS, who do they all contract with? Palantir, founded by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp and Joe Lonsdale, Israel First Jews that after October 7th flew their board to Israel and provided them with facial recognition technology to murder Palestinians.
All right, I'm not a fan of dropping the J-bomb the way he does, but that part is true. After October 7th, the Palantir board did fly to Israel. They had a meeting with President Isaac Herzog, and they basically gave this incredible facial recognition software to the Israeli IDF, and that was used to target Palestinian people. I mean, they claim they were targeting quote-unquote Hamas, but obviously we all know that what's been killed more than anything, considering we've never seen one dead Hamas soldier anywhere in social media or the news, and all the doctors that I've had on the podcast had never treated a Hamas soldier in any of their stays in Gaza. You know, all of that software has gone to killing innocent women and children.
J.D. Vance, who upon becoming the VP nominee in his first interview said, we're going to bomb Iran, who went to the Quincy Institute and said, we need a pro-Israel spin on America first. Tucker, who interviewed Vance 46 times on his show, Vance hired his son. Vance's Rockbridge Network was the spawning point of 1789 Capital, founded by Rebecca Mercer and Claire Monster Chris Buskirk, which gave Tucker $15 million. Rebecca Mercer funded Steve Bannon at Breitbart that spawned Milo Yiannopoulos' career. And Rebecca Mercer hand-selected George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband, to run Parler in 2021.
All right, you know what? He dropped a lot of names that I'm not even that familiar with, but take my word for it because I looked them all up. He connected all of those dots, including connecting the dot to Candace Owens' husband, this guy, George Farmer. And remember that Parler app? Do you guys remember that Parler app? It really launched in 2021 to basically, I think, take the place of Twitter or something. If you remember, Parler was considered, you know, like the Trump conservative Republican app. And I think it got shut down. I don't think it could get hosting services anywhere. So like Amazon's web hosting, Microsoft's web hosting, all of those platforms would not allow Parler to host with their servers. And so, man, he really connected all those dots. Even if you don't know any of those people, just know everybody that he mentioned are incredibly influential conservative Republicans that are all basically tied into, you know, I'd say the pro-Israel faction, for lack of a better way of saying it. And by the way, this is just the truth, man. This is just calling a spade a spade. So don't read anything more into it than just, this is exactly what's happening right now.
This is why they want me dead. Who's the Fed? Who's the Fed here? Because I brought all the receipts.
All right, that was a funny way to end it. That's why they want him dead. I mean, I'm going to knock on wood because I don't wish that on anybody. But man, it is definitely, it is plausible. I will say it is plausible that something happens to this poor kid because he is really, really ruffling feathers. Now, here's the flip side of this. So the flip side is, man, this is where my brain goes. Then you think, well, are they allowing him to ruffle these feathers? If he's ruffling the feathers of the most powerful people now, all of a sudden the pendulum of power has absolutely shifted to the Republican Party. Okay. It's like the Democrats are nowhere to be found. Where are the Democrats? Like, who's even in charge of that party anymore? Like, honestly, the only Democrat right now that is making any noise is Gavin Newsom. That's it. And he's a governor. He's the governor of California. He's not necessarily part of Congress, but the rest of those guys, they are really nowhere to be found. So my point is, the Republican Party is really in charge right now. And I'll be honest, I mean, I don't think this is good. I really don't. I think it's heading in a very, very precarious direction. And I've absolutely kind of changed a lot of my thoughts on a lot of this stuff. I really have. So now, with Nick Fuentes being this vocal, you then wonder, well, if he's really ruffling all their feathers, why are they letting him talk? You would think they would have shut him down by now. So that makes you think, oh man, what does that mean? Is this like, is he controlled opposition? Are they letting him do this on purpose? Is there 4D chess going on? Who the hell knows on that? But okay, that was a hardcore clip of his. Let's listen to this one. I'm going to actually play kind of what Tucker Carlson said about Nick. I don't know if I played this the last time, but listen to what Tucker Carlson said, and this was during his interview with Candace Owens.
Nick Fuentes, who's like some child from Chicago, to go after him specifically, one congressional seat in Washington State.
That is random.
It's not random, though. It's the opposite of random. Joe Kent was number one on the list.
Just a quick bit of context. So in this clip, Tucker was talking about how Nick Fuentes went after this Joe Kent guy. I don't even know who Joe Kent is, but the thing I want you to pay attention to is, again, you guys know what a fan of Tucker's I've been, and Candace for that matter. But during this interview, I mean, both of them, I've really held them in the highest regard. But during this interview, they just sounded different. Tucker sounded different. They came off very bitter and really weird. So listen to this part. This is just weird. It's very off brand on what I've heard out of Tucker's mouth for 5 years now, since COVID even.
Of people they wanted to knock off, people who believe in our neocon foreign policy. They wanted Joe Kent out because he could stand up and say, I actually know. I've got the receipts. My wife was killed in Syria. You had to take that guy out. And Nick Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago, is participating in a super PAC to bump off Joe Kent. I've been around this my whole life. I know what that is.
All right, I had to look this up to try to piece this together. So it seems like this Joe Kent guy was super far right, kind of, like crazy Trump supporter, said the election was rigged. He's connected to the Proud Boys and all that. Now, from what that clip sounded like, and then the research I did, Tucker Carlson's always kind of defended Joe Kent, which is a little bit interesting because to me, Joe Kent falls into this warmongering neoconservative guys, military industrial complex, all that stuff, right? And because his wife was killed in Syria, I guess you would think he's one of these Muslims are bringing the world down, let's kill all of them, okay? Now, it seems Tucker's not really like that anymore, but the fact that he got so defensive about Joe Kent, that's a little weird. That's a disconnect, okay? Now, Nick, on the other hand, attacked Joe Kent and he went after Joe Kent. So to me, that's not a disconnect. That's perfectly on brand for what Nick is all about. And that goes to Nick basically no longer supporting Trump. Not only does he not support Trump anymore, he's pretty visceral against Trump, which you can hear it in this clip.
And now he says, if you're not on board with the Epstein cover-up, oh, I don't want your support. You're a weakling. Fuck you. Fuck you. You suck. You are fat. You are a joke. You are stupid. You are not funny. You are not as smart as you think you are. You are, and honestly, and if you watch my show, you know I've been very critical. I've never been this far. This just goes to show this entire thing has been a scam. When we look back on the history of populism in America, we are going to look back on the MAGA movement as the biggest scam in American history. And the liberals were right. The MAGA supporters were had. They were. When we look back in history, we will see Trump as a scam artist who served as a vehicle for this rather than the other way around. We were not the vehicle for Trump. Trump was the vehicle for all of us.
That's another incredible statement. I mean, basically, he's saying Trump was the Trojan horse. You know, Trump was the Trojan horse that filled everyone in his belly and got across the line. And then you open up the door and you're like, wait a minute, this is not what we thought it was.
Your supporters stuck with you through everything. Stormy Daniels, the Steele dossier, the impeachments, the insurrection. I mean, his supporters stuck with him through everything, even his failures. He says they will never learn. It's like, hey, dumbass, your supporters stuck by you through everything. What do you mean? They didn't fall for all that stuff.
I'm telling you, this is why I think highly of this kid. Again, that is such a good point. You know, the Trump supporters stuck with him through all of that stuff. Rigged 2020 election. Actually, take it back to 2016, the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, you know, all of those criminal trials, the 2020 election. It's like anything that Trump would do, or anything that they would do against Trump, man, his supporters absolutely had his back. And then all of a sudden, here we are 3 weeks ago, and he's calling his supporters stupid and saying, I don't need you anymore, or I don't want you if you want to continue to ask me for the Epstein files. That's a huge disconnect. That really is. That's very astute the way he pointed that out.
This is real, and now people are mad. He says the weaklings are doing the Democrats' work. I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Hey, you. Hey, you, fat ass. Really? I'm so sick of this. He thinks he's so funny. You're not funny. You're a joke. Thank you for your attention to this matter. You are a fucking cornball, okay?
All right. Again, for those of you that don't know, that's how Trump ended a few different tweets, either on Truth Social or I think it was on Truth Social. He's like, thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, it was corny. It was very corny. I mean, man, he really nailed it with that clip. God, every clip I play from Nick, it's like the one is better than the previous. All right, and I think this will be the last one. Again, all right, let's listen to this and then I'll give you a little summary.
Like 80% of the population, they're low IQ followers, whatever you want to call it. It's a 20-80 principle or an 80-20 principle. And here's what I mean by this. We're at the point now where you have these basic normies, they're just discovering Israel. At the same time, I go and criticize Trump for something or another thing, and people say, yeah, but I mean, the Democrat would have been worse, don't you think? But the Democrats would have been far worse. This is better than Kamala, wouldn't you say?
You know, again, I think that is so good. And honestly, I can say I'm guilty of that thought process, like the thought process of, well, this is better than Kamala. This would have been better than Kamala. I think I might have even said that on various episodes, but I'm definitely guilty of that thought process for sure. Now, listen to what he says about that thought process. I think this is incredibly intelligent.
And to me, this is just such like a basic mechanism of control, which is how the regime will play the right off of the left. The right and left are the same, and yet it needs to be said over and over and over again. The Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. They always have been. Who brought us to Iraq? The Republicans. Who made the economy the way it is? Republicans. Well, where did NAFTA come from? Yeah, Bill Clinton signed it, but it came from the Republicans. It's like, so, people like to say, oh, but the Dems, but the left, but this, that, and the other. The Republicans are the same. They are virtually the same. The platform is effectively indistinguishable. They have the same donors. They go to the same parties. They're the same people. Now, whether you or I are voting Republican or Democrat, whether we watch Fox News or MSNBC, we're still goyim. We're still stupid wage slaves. We're still a bunch of stupid, disenchanted, or I should say disenfranchised wage slaves that are eating Zog slop, watching slop on TV. And here we are arguing, it should be Biden, it should be Trump.
Okay, really quick, I wanted to jump in. I did listen to the rest of this, and I want to preface this with I fact-checked everything he's about to say, and it's completely accurate. And so in your mind, I want you to think about Trump 2016 to 2020, Biden 2020 to 2024, and now Trump again, because he's going to talk about continuity. So he says whether it's Trump or Biden or Trump, there's continuity.
There's continuity. Trump armed the Ukrainians first. Biden continued it. Trump gave us the vaccine. Biden mandated it. Trump started the Chinese tariffs. Biden did the CHIPS Act and continued the tariffs. Trump created the corporate tax rate. Biden kept it in place. Trump extended it when he got back in. It's all the same shit. It's always been all the same shit. So, and like I said, I feel like George Carlin saying that. I feel like an edgy midwit when I say, oh, it's all one big club and you ain't in it. Yeah, I feel like a big fucking stupid midwit when I say that. And yet it still needs to be said because you have these dummies that are like, we have to vote Republican every time forever or else the Democrats, they're gonna what? They're gonna make a vaccine. They're gonna let in illegal aliens. Trump did the same thing. So, the promise of Trump is that he was gonna break us out of that. He didn't. And now we need to recognize he's just another Republican candidate and act accordingly. That was always my message.
I mean, man, that is a hard truth. That is really a hard truth. The promise was that Trump was a guy that was going to break us out of that. I've actually talked about that a lot. I have said I did think he was, the breaker of chains, the dude that was going to bring an end to this uniparty concept. And it just doesn't seem like it's happening. Now, again, is that because he's under duress? Because of the assassination, all that? Was that all something that changed him? Or, man, has this been a controlled opposition psyop since 2016? I don't know. Let's see what happens. Let's see what plays out. But anyway, I can't believe I did an entire episode on Nick. That's pretty funny. But I hope it was good. I hope it was interesting. I mean, I hope that, he brought things that we should all think about. And again, there's a few people in particular I'm thinking about right now. I know you hate Nick Fuentes, but I think you hate 2020 18-year-old Nick Fuentes. I really do. I don't think, or 21-year-old Nick Fuentes, I don't think you've consumed enough of 26, 27-year-old Nick Fuentes. And God, that is insane that we're talking these young ages. I mean, even everything that he said here, if this was the first time you had ever heard of Nick Fuentes or heard him, that's pretty impressive that that's coming out of the mouth of a 26 or 27-year-old. Anyway, all right, everybody. So on Thursday, I'm going to release just another really good episode. It's the interview with Dr. Mark Bronner. He's the big white dude doctor that went to Gaza. It's really good. It actually reminds me in many ways of the interview with Scott Sieverts that I released on Monday. I might come back on Friday myself or actually release another interview. I've got a great health interview with a food scientist, Brian Lay, actually. I'm sorry. My man, Brian. His episode is incredibly interesting because we go from talking about beef jerky to taking LSD at Burning Man. It's pretty wild. So maybe Friday, if I don't get a chance to record myself, I'll release the episode with Brian, which is obviously not geopolitical at all. It's kind of a different vibe. So, all right, everybody, that's it. Call a spade, call your parents, and we will talk to you soon.
This episode was brought to you by Zippix Nicotine Toothpicks. Zip more, smoke less. Totally satisfying, discreet, and delicious. Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks are available in 6 great flavors, each containing at least 2 milligrams of nicotine to curb those cravings. Zippix is FDA registered and proudly made in the USA. Use discount code DSD for 10% off your order at zippixtoothpicks.com. Zip more, smoke less, save 10%.